humility has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land.
Yeah, if you're wondering why that bumper was good, it's because I didn't make it. So, thank you, Jeremiah, for that one. It actually saved me last week while I was in real life. So, David's shaking his head back there at me. It's a real honor to be with you guys today. It's a pretty somber moment. It's the end of the year. We've come this far, and it's hard to believe. And C.S. Lewis once said, I know I'll get some cheers from people. C.S. Lewis once said, day by day nothing changes, but you look back and everything is different. And I feel like as we've gone and done this, everything has been different. Day by day, you don't notice the difference, but when I look back, where I started versus where I am now, it's wild to see the difference. And so I don't want to run past that, guys. Live in the moment. We've got Y2s, we got graduation. Y1s, you've got you're about to take the mantle. And speaking of passing the mantle, we actually changed it back to Promised Land because Moses passed the mantle to Joshua before he went to the Promised Land. That's what Pastor Danny said. So we kept it the same. So anyway, it's just good to be with you guys today. And I'm going to make the hardest pivot ever. So in 2018 and 2019, there was a popular game called Fortnite. Okay. Now it's still pretty popular, but it's a battle royale game if you don't know much about it. But in 2019, they released this mode called Creative Mode, okay? Now, Creative Mode is where you can forge your own maps. You can make whatever you wanted to, okay? You don't have to play the standard battle royale map. You can actually just, for example, people would make hide-and-seek maps or, build battle maps or something like that. But one of the most favorite maps for people was called the Death Run, okay? Yeah. Raise your hand if you ever did a Fortnite Death Run. Okay, we have a couple people in the room. Okay, I feel like this illustration might not make sense, but I'm going to try to explain it anyway. So a death run is basically, there's 10 levels, for example. You have a starting point on each level, and you have an ending point on each level. And if you died in the middle of the level, you had to reset and go back to the very beginning. And so what would happen is I for example, me, I would die 10,000 times, and I would be okay, here I need to take a left. Here I need to trip this trap and then turn back around and then run through. Here I need to jump up on this ledge, and here I need to use this shockwave grenade. I know that none of this makes sense, but I'm trying to make a point. Okay, you would do this over and over so many times that eventually you would know what step to take and when to take it, and then you would end up passing the level. And when I was thinking about passing the torch, when I was thinking about the Promised Land, I started thinking about I can't go back and redo my time here. I can't go back and change anything. I can't go back and tell myself to take this left turn or to go straight here. As much as I wish I could, it would be crazy. But I can't go back and do that. However, I can use what I've learned and tell you the same things. So I can tell you what to do or what steps to take or what I should have done. So let's go ahead and jump right into this. So the first thing I want you to know is don't be afraid to fail. I remember at the beginning of this year, we have a lot going on. It's due day and orientation week and challenge day and collective and all those other things. So the week after that, we had Unique. And I remember Megan reached out to me and she was like, hey, I'd like you to lead the after party setup. And I was for one part, I was honored. I was like, okay, yeah, that's awesome. Because most of the women are sitting in service and everything like that. So, us men are leading the charge on the after party. So she was like, I want you to lead the after party setup. And I was like, okay, I would love to do that. One part I was honored. On the second part, though, I was terrified. Because I'm like, what if I lead the after party setup and it doesn't go well and the whole event goes to trash because of me? That actually happened in my first Unique because they put me in parking and I'd never done that before. And I got 181 backed up. So, that's neither here nor there. But so I was one part honored and one part terrified. And what I want to tell you today is, when given an opportunity, there's always a choice to embrace the risk, or there's a choice to shrink back and stay in your comfort zone. And we see this with Moses, right? Moses was a guy who was born a Hebrew. He was put in a river and raised by an Egyptian princess. And he knew that he had a call of God on his life. It says that his face shone like any other baby, never like any other baby before. And so Moses, he gets raised by this Egyptian princess, and he recognizes the call in his life, and he tries to actually take the call too early. And he kills an Egyptian slave driver and ends up having to leave Egypt because he's wanted. And we find him in the burning bush. And we find him at the burning bush, and God calls him, and he's terrified, right? God's like, I want you to go free my people. And Moses is like, I'm not your guy. Like, God gives him this incredible opportunity. He renews the call in his life, and Moses is like, I'm sorry, I'm just not the one. Like, going so far as to say, I don't even know, I can't even talk. And Moses had this incredible opportunity, but he failed in the past, so why would he want to go back and fail again? And what I want you to know is that the fear of failure, whenever you're faced with an opportunity, whenever you're given one, it'll cripple you from doing anything at all. If you're scared to fail, you won't move at all. Me and Pastor Danny had a conversation about this one time. It's a big issue in my life because I'm afraid of disappointing people, or I'm afraid of looking stupid. That you're never going to grow if you don't face your fears. And one of the fears that we have to face is the fear of failure. So if I can leave you with anything today, it's if you don't push, if you're not embracing the challenges, if you're not constantly doing things that push you out of your comfort zone, you will get past. If you do not push, you will get past. God will use somebody else. So my challenge to you today, Y1s and Y2s as you go, push and watch God promote you. Main point number 2, I want you to know, guys, don't be stubborn. This one should get some cheers in the back from that man in the green hat right there. I don't know. Okay, and this is going to sound super hypocritical, but I tutor. Okay, so everybody knows that. I love tutoring because I love seeing people like their minds open up and they're able to like understand the concepts and things like that. It brings me joy. One of the most frustrating things about tutoring, however, is when I repeat a concept week after week, and they still don't understand it. It's not like I don't know how else to say it. I'm just like, this is the only way I know how to explain it. I tried to cater to your learning style. You just they just forget over and over again. And nobody likes to have something repeated to them over and over again and not be listened to. And he's just giving me the oh my goodness. Anyway, I just feel super hypocritical right now, but nobody likes that. Nobody likes to repeat themselves over and over again. And we find in Hebrews 3, 7 through 11, this is where the Lord had me for the longest time, and I wonder why. But Hebrews 3, 7 through 11 says, therefore, just as the Holy Spirit says, today if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts as when they provoked me. As in the day of trial in the wilderness where your fathers tried me by testing me and saw my works for 40 years. Therefore I was angry with this generation and said, they always go astray in their hearts, and they did not know my ways. As I swore in my wrath, they will never enter my rest. These were the Israelites. They had been delivered from Egypt. They're on their way to the promised land. And along the way, they've had repeated disobediences, repeated stubbornness. They're not listening to the voice of God. And I love the way that the verse 3:11 is said in the Message. It says, exasperated I vowed. They'll never get where they're going. They'll never be able to sit down and rest. What I want you to know about stubbornness is that if you're stubborn, if you refuse to listen to the voice of God, God will prevent you from getting where you actually want to go. He's taking you somewhere, and he's taking you on a journey, but if you're not listening to his voice, you'll never get where you're going. It's like if you're driving and you got Siri on your Apple CarPlay, and Siri's like, you need to take a right, and you're like, nah, dog, I know, I'm going straight. Okay, well, guess what? If you don't take the right, you're not going to get where you're going. You're not following directions, and it's the same thing with the voice of God. If you're not listening to his voice, you're never going to be able to get where you're going. I remember at the beginning of our summer team last year, we met in the living room, got all of our assignments to us, and Pastor Danny was talking to me about a special project that I was going to be working on, and I just remember talking to him. I was like, I'm exhausted. Like, I'm so tired. I'm burned out. Like, my relationship with God is it's not great. Like, I can barely even spend time with him because I just don't even want to. Like, I want to do these opportunities. Like, I want to be a part of this, embracing the fear of failure. But I just was burned out and tired. And I remember went downstairs, talked behind the production parking lot. I don't even know if you remember this, but I remember it vividly because he was trying to give me all these solutions to these problems. And I'm like, but. And he's like, you know what your problem is? He's like, you refuse to listen. You are stubborn, and you know what stubbornness is? It's idolatry. And because stubbornness is idolizing your own opinion. And I was like, ow, that one hurt. But it's so true, because I was idolizing my own opinion. I wasn't listening to the voices of God, or the voice of God, or the voices that God had surrounded me with. And because of that, I was refusing to get, or I was not going to be able to get where I actually wanted to go. And we see in Psalm 81, 13 through 16, the Lord's talking. He says, "Oh, that my people would listen to me, that Israel would walk in my ways. I would quickly subdue their enemies and turn my hand against their adversaries. Those who hate the Lord would pretend obedience to him, and their time of punishment would be forever. But I would feed you with the finest of wheat, and with honey from the rock I would satisfy you." We see that with listening to the voice of God, there comes promises of, hey, I'm going to subdue your enemies. Like, what is something that you need God to take care of in your life? Well, are you listening to his voice? Because I know I wasn't for the longest time. And I was wondering why I'm having all these issues. I'm wondering why I can't move forward. Well, the reason is because I refused to listen. I was never going to be able to get where I was going. So if I could leave you with this, it's if you want to get where you're going, don't be stubborn. Listen to the people that God has surrounded you with. Listen to the Lord himself. And the last thing I want you to know before Kelly comes up is don't ever compromise your security. And I don't know, has anybody ever seen Star Wars A New Hope? Yeah, okay. It's not my favorite Star Wars movie, but we find our heroes in Star Wars A New Hope. They're having to fight this massive battle station called the Death Star, okay? Now, this is an illustration just for me, okay? The Death Star has these turbo lasers. It's one of the most heavily fortified things in the galaxy. Probably the most heavily fortified thing in the galaxy. It's got plenty of, it's got a whole fleet surrounding it. It's impossible to take down, except for one glaring flaw in a ventilation shaft. If you fire a proton torpedo down that thing, that boy's gonna blow up. And we see that our heroes have exploited that and discovered the fatal flaw, and they're able to destroy the Death Star. Just a ragtag group of rebels. And my point to you is this: it doesn't matter how heavily fortified you are, it doesn't matter how strong you think you are, one chip in your security, one gap in your security can take you down. More than anything else in ministry, the enemy wants your security. I'll explain that in a minute, but he wants you to put your security in the people that surround you. Your leaders, for example. The one that you look up to, the one that you trust, the one that's taken you under their wing, the one who sees a lot of opportunity in you, and the one that calls you out a lot. He wants you to put your security in them and look to them to only get answers from the Lord. Or maybe it's in your work. Like, he wants you to put your security in your work, the things that you're good at, the things that you excel at, or this project you did really well on, or that message you cooked on, to quote myself. Or maybe even in your relationships, that one relationship that you have, or the friendships that you have, the people group that like you, or the students that you lead. He wants you to put your security in anything but God. And the reason is this, is because if your security is not in God, you lose the why. If your security is not in God, you lose the why, which is a pretty big gap in security, because if you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, burnout is inevitable, exhaustion is inevitable, and you not being in ministry in probably 5 to 10 years is probably also really inevitable. But this is what Psalm 91, 1 through 2 says. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty. I'll say to the Lord, my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. There is a shelter, a dwelling place that we have in God. And when we dwell in this place, what does that really mean? It means, hey, God's presence is your priority. Like, that's a core value that we have here. Or you're letting God define your identity, trusting God over everybody else. That's what it means to have your security in the Lord. You're waiting on him and nobody else. Yes, you're seeking out wise counsel. Yes, you're listening to the voices that God has surrounded you with. But at the end of the day, they're a barometer, but God is your plumb line. He's the thing that stays constant. And there's a promise for those who put their security in him. And if you go to verses 14 through 16, it says, and this is the Lord speaking about the person who puts their security in him. It says, because he has loved me, therefore I'll deliver him. I'll set him securely on high because he has known my name. He will call upon me and I'll answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will rescue him and honor him. With a long life, I will satisfy him and I'll let him see my salvation. For those of us who put our security in the Lord, for those of us who aren't letting little gaps in our security happen, or just putting our security in somebody else's hands entirely, God makes like 7 different, or it's like actually probably like 6. No, it's 7. I was right the first time. He makes 7 different promises to those. He's going to deliver us. He's going to set us securely on high. He's going to put us on the high ground above the people that are attacking us. And he's going to not just put us on a slippery slope, but hey, we're going to be on solid on a rock. He answers us. Hey, I know for a long time I felt like the Lord would never answer me. It's because my security was never in him. It's because I never really trusted that he would answer. He's going to be with us in trouble. He's going to rescue and honor us. And these last two I love. He satisfies our life and he makes it long. But the last one I love is he lets us see his salvation. When you put your security in the Lord, salvation is yours because you trust in him. And so if I could leave you with anything today, is don't let there be gaps in your security. Your security needs to be in the Lord. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So Caleb opened up so wonderfully for us, so we are just going to dive right in. So point number 4 is don't forget the mission. Everybody say don't forget the mission.
Don't forget the mission.
Now this came to my mind because we flew to Indiana over the past couple weeks. I don't even know what day it is anymore. But we flew to Indiana. It made me think about the first time that I flew by myself. I flew out of Mobile Airport and it was just so scary. I was by myself, and so I get on the plane, and I go through TSA, and I do all the things, and so I'm sitting in my seat, and this guy comes and sits beside me. He's another student at South, and so we're sitting there, and he immediately, like, you can just tell, like, who wants to talk beside you and who, like, does not want to talk beside you. He puts on his headphones, he puts on his hood, man does not want to talk, and I was like, okay, I respect it. So we take off, and I was kind of getting used to that. It was a little bit rough, but, you know, get up in the air somehow, and I look out the window, and there's clouds, and I was like, okay, you know, I expected this to happen. And so then we keep flying, and then I started to feel like shaking, like the plane is getting a little bit of rustle and tussle in it, and I was like, I'm not sure that I knew about this part. And suddenly the flight attendants are like booking it back to the back of the plane. And I was like, that's not supposed to happen either. And so the plane is going back and forth, and I was like, oh, we're dying. We're falling out of the sky. We are going to crash this plane. And I started thinking about all these things and how I needed to say goodbye to everyone. I was like, I need to say goodbye to my mom, I need to say goodbye to my sister, and I gotta find my dad, I gotta say goodbye to him, and I gotta say goodbye to all these people. And I was like, just freaking out, and I was just like, so stressed out about all things. And so I looked to my right, and this guy is still asleep. He's still asleep. And I was like, dude, we're dying, wake up. Like, what are you doing? And so I started shaking him, and I was like, wake up. And he takes off his hood, takes off his headphones, and he looks at me so irritated with me. And then he looks around the plane, and we're shaking still. Like, I don't know why he was not taking this seriously. And then he just puts his headphones back on and puts his hood back on. And I was like, you know what? You die and not say goodbye to anyone, okay? Like, we're not even gonna learn each other's stories and like die at the same time together. Like, we're just gonna plummet through the air and hit the ground, and it'll be fine. And I found out later it was turbulence, but I mean, it was just this thing that I just wasn't used to on my first flight. But I think so many of us forget the mission, and the mission is to wake up sleepers. We are called to have people meet Jesus. Our call and our mission is to make sure that people have a relationship with Jesus, that people come to know him, that they know their creator, they know the person that said, hey, I want to make sure that this person has brown hair and that their eyes are green and all of the things that make them them. I want to make sure that these people see heaven. I want to go out from this church and I want to make sure that the people that I encounter at Starbucks or the people that I find broken down on the side of the road, that they know Jesus Christ. The mission is Jesus. And if I could remind you of anything this morning, as a Y1 student going into your Y2 year, the way that you perform means nothing. The way that you lead a team, or the way that if you don't have Jesus, it's all for nothing. It's all for show. If all that you have at the end of the day is just, hey, we had a good huddle, I said what I needed to say, I got a few claps, and no one came to know Jesus, you've missed all of it.
Yeah.
If you work at a church one day and you can say, I can do X, Y, Z well, and my resume looks like this, and no one comes to Christ. No one raises their hand at the end of a service. What are you doing with your job? Why are you getting paid? Like, not even on earth. Why are you going to get paid in heaven? What is the point of going through all this trouble of 2 years of ministry school if we forget the mission? Point number 5, don't miss it. When I was younger and I was just beginning to learn how to swim, I would start off on the edge and I'd hold my little hand on the edge, but I did not learn last week. It was a few weeks ago. And I had my hand on the little edge of the pool, and my mom would stand on the other side, just a few feet away, and she'd say, swim to me. And so I'd swim to her, she'd catch me, and then she'd say, go back to the edge of the pool and do it again. So I'd go back to the edge of the pool, and she'd secretly, while I had my back turned, I was going back to the edge, she'd back up. And I'd say, you backed up. She said, no, I didn't, just swim to me. And so she'd swim to me, and then she'd say, okay, go back and do it again. And then she'd back up even more. And I'd say, you were all the way across the pool. And she said, no, I'm not, just swim to me. And then she'd catch me the last time, and she'd turn me around and say, look how far you've come. And that's the thing about this college that I don't want you guys to miss. When I did my interview for like our end of the year video that I'll show at graduation, I'm sure we'll all cry, but David asked me if you could sum up City Hope College in one word, what would you say? And I would say, it's a family. Do not go the rest of your time in City Hope College not realizing the family that you have around you. If you look around this place, there are people in this room that are part of your testimony for such a reason. Do not leave this place and not recognize that you had the best spiritual parents that anyone could ever ask for. And that you had Hannah freaking Galvis in your corner. That you have the best, I saw the heads turn because I said freaking, and it's fine, I'll deal with the consequences later. But we have the best people in our corners. If you leave here and you don't have mentors and spiritual mothers and sisters or brothers and fathers, you have missed it. Our church is a house that loves to send missionaries and loves to send people and charge them and charge the pits of hell because they want to equip you, they want to love you, they want to be in your corner. There were times in my life that I remember, and I think about how David, whenever he saw Goliath, he was prepared because he had killed a lion and a bear in preparation for Goliath. And I remember that the people sitting in this room were there for my lion and my bear and were ready and helped me and equipped me for my Goliath. The people in this room are going to do such amazing things for you. But if you just show up to school every day and you leave right when it's time to go and you've made no connections and you've made no relationships with the people around you, there's no point. There's no point. It says this, iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. This is your iron sharpening season. This is when you'll run into challenges. This is when you'll be encouraged by the best people. This is the time where we are moldable and shapeable clay. This is when we say, God, I want to look like you. And I want you to take everything out of me. I want to resemble you. I want when people look at me, I want them to see Jeremiah 18, and I want them to say, wow, you really look like God. And it was because I gave him the obedience and the yes to shape me. There was a quote that I heard one time, and it says, in the presence of greatness, you will listen more than you speak. And a lot of times when I meet with people, and I've been made fun of this before and I don't care, I'll ask a lot of questions. I ask a lot of questions. How did you do that? What did you do when this happened? What happens when you run into that? And I think I talked Miss Joey's ear off when we were at art, because I just kept asking her all these questions, but she just answered all of them. If there's wisdom that you seek, it's here. It's in this season. You have so much to learn. And when you humble yourself and you sit and you say, I want to learn from you. You've done it better. You've been in ministry longer than me, and I know that there's so much that I can get from you. Well, they're going to start sharing experiences. They're going to start sharing, well, yeah, I had a coworker that doesn't work in ministry anymore because they failed at this. Are we being humble? Are we being moldable clay to ask the questions, to ask the brave questions, to ask, hey, if anything's going to stop me, what's in my life that's going to stop me? You know, what is going to hold me up from being in ministry, from loving the Lord with all my heart? And so, I'm just going to have everyone close their eyes as we wrap up. Are you actively seeking repentance, conviction, and deliverance from the Holy Spirit with the season that you're in? I'm going to pray Ephesians 1:17 through 19 over you. And it says, I ask the God of our Master Jesus Christ, the God of glory, to make you intelligent and discerning in knowing him personally, your eyes focused and clear, so that you can see exactly what he is trying and calling you to do. I pray that you would grasp the immensity of his glorious way of life that he has for his followers. Oh, the utter extravagance of his work, the extravagance of his work in us who trust him. Endless energy and boundless strength. Lord, I pray that we would know your boundless strength. Through tough conversations, Lord, I pray that we would know boundless strength. Through hard times when we can't seem to find a way to pay this tuition, Lord, I pray that we would know your boundless strength. Lord, I pray that this group of kids and students of the Word would know the immensity of your glorious ways. That, Lord, when they open your Word, that they would see the utter extravagance of your Word. That, Lord, that we would begin to discern and have knowledge and wisdom for what you will bring us through. Jesus, it has been an honor to serve this house and to be a part of City Oak College. Lord, you have surrounded us with people who love us. And I couldn't continue to go even further without thanking you for the people that you have equipped for this specific field, because they have impacted not only the eternities of City Oak College students, but the eternities of the students of City Oak College students. Lord, thank you for not giving up on the souls in this room. Thank you for continuing to love. Thank you for showing us perseverance. Thank you for showing us how undeniable it is to run from you. Thank you for bringing this family together. God, we love you so much. In your mighty name.